It is Legends territory. We're back. Scotty Braun and AJ Przinsky. We got a big one today. And first, as always, thanks to our MLB PAA fam for setting up the best former player combos in the biz. Check out baseballalumni.com for more info on your favorite players. And quick reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, the podcast version of this show is on Apple and Spotify. So now let's get to our next legend. Hall of Famer coming through, 16-year big leaguer. And most of that time with the Mets and the Dodgers, a 12-time All-Star, including an All-Star Game MVP, 10-time Silver Slugger, a former Rookie of the Year, one of the best slugging catchers of all time, inducted into the Hall in 2016. Mike Piazza has arrived in Legends territory. Oh, and let me add a credential, Mike, Team Italy manager in this past World Baseball Classic. How you doing? And how was that little run for you?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That project was really the genesis of that came from that. I played for Team Italy in 2006, and I've always had a great relationship with them. Coached, I think, in 2009 and 13, and stepped away for a little bit. And then when I actually moved to Italy, obviously they're like, "Hey, you're over here now. Would you like to help us out again?" And I did. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a labor of love, and obviously keeps my toe in the game a little bit. And this past recent classic was amazing. We had some great guys. My team coordinator is a guy by the name of Gianmarco Faroni, and just started recruiting early. We're like, hey, let's try to make an impact in this thing. So we were able to find out many guys that we didn't even realize were Italian. And so we had to do the research and go through the consulate and trace their families back and get documents so that they were eligible. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. I mean, we had a great team vibe, and we had a lot of chemistry. And we still have a group chat. Every time guys get called up and guys are doing well, we all jump on the chat and give each other props. So it was a lot of fun, a great experience.
Nicky Lopez is one of those guys because we had him on Foul Territory, and we're like, wait, you're Italian? Nicky Lopez
Yeah.
doesn't sound Italian, but he was. So that makes sense that you guys would do that.
Yeah.
You're in Miami now. What's the split between Italy and Miami as far as your living situation?
Yeah, well, it started, my wife and I just wanted to put our kids in school for a few years, like to study abroad and give them a European experience. And then 2 years turned into 5 after COVID, because everything was turned upside down. And then amazingly, it just kind of becomes home, especially kids, because they get into their social groups. And, my daughters have friends over there. And so generally, though, my family is still in the car business. So I still have our businesses back here in Philly. So I have to come back periodically. And it makes it easy because I'm close to Milan, and there's a lot of flights going back and forth. So I mean, I've been flying now more than when I played, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, they're there for the school year, and then obviously for the summer, it's a great time to be over there. The beach, there's the Amalfi, and we go down to Forte di Marmi and Milan Marittima on the coast, and we travel. My kids just went to Turkey, to Istanbul, and everything is close too. So when you go to France or you go to England or Germany, everything's just an hour and a half flight. So it's a good way of life. It really is. It's incredible, the food and wine and culture. And so I don't know. We're just taking it step by step. My oldest now is going to be getting ready. Probably she's going to be a junior in high school. So we'll see if she wants to come back here and go to college. But obviously she has options, and that's great.
I want to backtrack for 1 sec because you said there was the
Yeah.
group chat going with Team Italy.
Yeah,
So give
sure.
me like the best text, or who's the biggest prankster, who's got the best memes or lines or anything like that going on in there.
Well, Sully, I mean, our catcher. I mean, you're talking about Lopez too, but his mom is Italian, and obviously the Fletcher brothers, who their mother was born in Italy, is from Tuscany. And Dominic obviously just get recently called up and got off to a great start. And so, yeah, we really had an incredible time. I mean, Matt Harvey, obviously, I didn't even realize his mom's name was Venditti, and his mom was from outside of Rome, the family. So you would never think Harv was Italian. So it was amazing. John Marco did all the research, and obviously we had to get all the documents to make sure they were eligible. And it really, what a great group, really. I mean, I was so sad to see Harv retire. I mean, I felt like he pitched well enough to get another shot. He was dealing, and he obviously wasn't throwing 96, 97, but unfortunately, if you don't have those numbers today, it seems like that um, you don't, they're just not going to give you an opportunity, which is a little sad.
What was
Yeah,
Matt like when you worked with him out there on Team Italy? Because I mean, you guys both had like moments where you were the king of New York City, right? So
yeah.
just curious to get your take on if you had any conversations about his incredible run there, both on the field and hey, he had his issues off the field, which
Sure.
we're all well aware, and he's talked about it. And like, how did he seem at this point in his life?
Well, I thought he was an incredible teammate. I mean, he took the team out to dinner a couple times. I mean, everyone. We were all like, "Wow!" We were in Taipei and we went out to a restaurant, and I was like, "Harv, you need some help?" He says, "No, I got it. Don't worry about it." And that just shows his incredible his willingness and generosity as a teammate. And of course, as you said, he had his issues, but I believe in second chances. I believe in uh, just forgiveness, and he seemed everything that our experience with him was incredible. And again, it was a little sad for me. I was hoping somebody would at least give him one more shot. That maybe he could break through and be a fourth or fifth starter. And again, it just didn't happen, and that's sad, and that's part of life. But I think he's kind of surrendered to it. He's moved on. Obviously, he's starting to get into real estate in New York, and I wish him the best. I mean, we're friends. We text once in a while, and he recently just lost a grandfather a few months ago, and so we were all very much gave him our condolences on that. And so, great guy, man. It's this game is hard. This game is harsh. The world sometimes is not fair, but you still have to get up every day and move forward.
Mike, what has your run in the WBC done to grow the game in Italy? What are you doing since you're over there most of the time? And finally, next time you guys have a tournament, do you need an extra coach? Because Perzinski sounds very Italian, and I always would love to go over and
That's
spend some time in Italy with someone like you.
that's Team Poland, though, isn't it? I mean, we can organize the Polish guys. They're good guys. We work with everyone in Europe. The Czechs obviously had a great run. Um, the Germans are doing very well. Germany, they recruit well, and they have some good athletes. They have a kid in the big leagues, actually. I forget his name. I think with Minnesota, played for a little bit. I forget his name, but he, the whole program of baseball in Italy is that it's a club sport. It's just obviously you have soccer and you have other sports over there that are the main sports. And I think baseball in Italy has been a tradition since after World War II, and it's gone through ups and downs. I mean, it really comes down to funding. I mean, you know this. It really comes down to if we are able to do well in the international events, we get more funding from CONI. We actually get funding from the Olympic Committee of Italy. So the international events are very important, and it's based on your success. So we have to kind of go above and beyond to try to win so that we get more funding. I mean, Major League Baseball, they just had the London series. I think that's pretty cool. I've kind of impressed Jim Small from Major League Baseball International to try to do more. And it's difficult. I understand their position because, baseball in Italy is in Europe in general is very fractured. There's little groups and clubs. And we've tried to at least make the instructional program uniform in the recruiting program. And now we've changed our approach. We're trying to get more Italian kids, native kids to go to college here because in the past they had signed if they had some ability, but they kind of washed out early because they just didn't have the experience. So now we feel if they can come here and get into these college programs and not necessarily the major college programs, even if it's junior college or even the last year of high school, we're seeing better results in that. So the way we can keep producing more European, especially for us Italian players, we think that will help with continuing to grow the game.
Has MLB approached you about being a Chase Utley type figure? I don't know if you've seen Utley's role with the league right now, but going to that extent, if you'd even want to get that heavily involved?
Well, I mean, I think I've been over there so long now. I mean, again, I've been working with them since 2006. So, I mean, like I guess I was the original ambassador to Europe. I mean, from playing in Italy and then just working in various, sort of gyrations of baseball in Europe. I mean, Dan Bonanno, who's with Major League Baseball International, and as I mentioned, Jim. They have events. I do one-off events, occasionally clinics. I've done clinics and try to, as I've said, now with the sort of technical age and with the internet, we're trying to sort of solidify and make the instructional program uniform from the pitchers and the hitters and other various positions. So now that we have that ability, we're getting a little bit more focused and we're trying to just refine the talent and, as I said, produce more players. But there's two different phases to it. Obviously, there's PR and there's outreach, and there's a big event like London, and then there's like grassroots recruiting and instruction and development, which is kind of what more I've been on that side. Just working with the youth and working with our league over there and trying to make things better. And it's a labor of love. You're never going to see instantaneous success. Just little steps here or there. And the recent success we had in the Classic was big because it brought in some funding and we're able to just continue to build the awareness. And hopefully one day, there's a stadium in Rome and hopefully one day they're playing in Paris and things like that. So that's kind of our vision.
Mike, I'm free anytime. You need me to come over and do
Hey,
some
we'll talk.
do some grassroots stuff with you. I mean, let's go. I mean, who doesn't
Yeah,
love
well,
Italy in the summer? I mean, I'm in. So just
we will. I will let you know. We have tours all the time. We bring over guys. Major League Baseball used to have a camp in where we had an academy in Tuscany, and then we would bring kids over, and guys would come on and instruct, and then kind of like a work vacation thing, and then go touring and shopping and wine tasting and all that stuff. So, yeah, man, if you're interested, honestly, we do. We have a program, and we had the Mission Classic, which we brought all these guys over last year before the Classic to kind of build some team unity. And we had a great time, man. We went to Rome, we went to Florence, we went to, they came to my house. I had a party at my house, and guys just killed it. They could eat and drink. I can tell you that much. I'd rather clothe them than feed them. That's for sure.
That sounds awful, Mike. I changed my mind. I'm out. I don't want to do
Yeah.
that at all. That sounds horrible, man. Oh.
Yeah, if you look at the website, the Italian American Baseball Foundation, as well as a group in New York, actually have an event this Wednesday night. We have a cigar event in Brooklyn. I'll give you the information. It's the Italian American Baseball Foundation, and so they work as well with us. They raise money for the cause, and they organized and they did this incredible production. It's on their website, the Mission Classic of all of us touring Italy, and so yeah. But listen, man. We're open to anybody. I mean, there's a lot of interest now, as you said, and so we love to bring guys over and have clinics and work with the kids, and they love it too. It really makes them feel they're connected, and because again, as I've said, baseball in Europe isn't it's like a club sport. It's still we're trying to build the awareness, but so when a kid plays baseball in Italy, they're kind of like a maverick. It's kind of like most of their friends are like, "You're playing baseball," like so they have to go through that social sort of. Pressure to do other things. And so we really want to try to help them out and say we're here for you and hopefully build their careers.
Important question for you. Should every big league dugout have an espresso machine?
It's funny, man. We that was like the one thing that I was insistent upon. I was like, man, we got to have espresso machine because it's a part of the culture. I mean, and again, you know, Americans drink these big, tall coffees. I mean, Italians drink like this. This is our little coffee. So, we had a great coaching staff. Gibo Generali from Parma, Michele, his brother, and guys that really. We and again, that's another thing. We were able to bring over guys. We had some Italian guys that we really care about and that have really contributed. So eventually we want to make the team almost 50-50, with Italian American guys and Italian guys. So we're getting that, we're growing in that direction. So with that comes the culture. And so that was pretty cool. That was amazing how people picked up on that. That was a lot of fun.
That was awesome. And most
Yeah.
major leaguers freaking live and die off of coffee. I mean, almost every guy you talk to, they're going down through, 6+ cups a day from, it's a long day at the ballpark. So
It's
it's a
true.
passion play for most guys too. So to talk
No
about the
doubt.
fine delicacy of the taste and the flavors. So all right, I want to swing it over to the US and to your playing days. I want to start here. So you were arguably one of the most accessible athletes in the top market in the country. No? You think I'm wrong?
Oh, no,
You
no, but I'm flattered. Go ahead.
I think that you
Yeah.
were open. You would have
Yeah.
conversations with the media. We could get to know you. Also, one of the keys, and especially on everything we do through Foul Territory and Legends Territory here, is the bullshit cookie cutter kind of answers from people are just so tired. And in
Yeah.
baseball, a lot of guys were trained to be that way, and just you're a rookie, you come up, you don't say shit, and then they just start going down that path.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you were at a time period where, there's Jeter and there's Ewing and some of these guys that are the faces of these franchises that are iconic, but they're pretty reserved, right? You don't
Yeah.
really get to open up or know them well. So the connection with fans, I can say for me, I grew up in the area, so I can say this, it doesn't resonate the same way. You seem to be different, where it's like, hey, I can chill back with you and give you more, because why not?
Well, you also have to understand, again, I mean, I retired in 2007 and I came to New York in 98. And I know I'm dating myself, but I mean, I'm not. Back then, the media was different. Back then, of course, there wasn't Twitter and social media. And I think you got to understand, I mean, we had the Daily News, the Post, the Times, the Star Ledger, the Record, all these papers, and every paper had a columnist. And then you had the TV and the radio and the fan and all these outlets in New York. And so I kind of made a conscious decision where, like you said, I just wanted to be open. And I think there's a lot of pressure there. I say, New York is twice as good as anywhere when you win and twice as bad when you lose. And I think the one thing that I learned from my various managers and coaches is just to be accountable. Because as I've said before, sometimes you just suck. I mean, AJ will attest to that, man. You have your good games, but sometimes you suck. Sometimes you have your bad games. And I think they're always on guard to see how you're going to handle those tough times. And as an athlete, we are built, our reputation are successes, but we're built from our failures. And so when I was struggling, I always wanted to hustle. When I was struggling, I always wanted to try to catch a good game, even if I wasn't hitting the ball well. I wanted to try to do everything I could to help the ball club win, regardless of if I was driving in the big runs or not. So just generally, you have to have the right attitude and you have to be accountable. And today, look, I mean, generations change. I think a lot of these kids are really good kids. I can call them kids, but I think they grew up in a different time. And I think generally, and again, I'm not stereotyping. Everyone's a little bit more sensitive to criticism, sensitive to being under the microscope. And you're seeing a lot of that play out in real time. And I think, you know what? Just go out there and play your ass off. I mean, Roy Campanella, when I was with the Dodgers, the last year I was worried about pressure in my rookie year. He says, Mike, just play the game. He goes, players play, writers write, coaches coach. Like, there's nothing they can write about you after a bad game to make you feel worse, and there's nothing they can write about you after a good game to make you feel better. So that's reality, and I think that was good sort of teaching for me and good philosophy, which helped me throughout my career.
I don't know how much you're following the Mets on a daily basis, but in this current time period, they're struggle city right now. And
Yeah,
people always use like LOL Mets, right? Like they spent a ton of money. You've got all this star power. The one thing I do think about as you're answering this, though, is post game, every single game, because I follow all the post game quotes and everything. And you could easily have guys not available, or you watch the interview and it's 10 seconds long and they just give you one word answers. Of course, you've got the vets like Scherzer, Verlander, but even Lindor, who's kind of more in the middle of his career right now. Every day, even if he's slumping through a couple weeks and the team is not playing well, I think that's the difference right now. It's not like it's nonstop drama that we saw with the previous ownership group too at times, right? With the Wilpons, there was so much going on around the ball club and the organization. So I don't know what you've observed from this Met side, because you played for the previous ownership group, but I still see a difference right now, even though the team is severely underperforming.
I think ultimately it really comes down to it's tough to win. That's just my opinion. And I don't care how much money you spend. I don't care who you sign. I don't care what rookies you have or what your philosophy or your strategy is. There's always hiccups, and the teams that kind of deal with those hiccups are the ones that are going to win. And a winning team has to have a certain type of chemistry, a certain type of zen. And if they don't have that, it's difficult. And especially in New York, because if you get off to a start or a bad start, or you start to struggle, you have slumps, you have to kind of insulate yourself, and you have to find a way to get out of it. And you have to find different characters and different people. I mean, my personal situation is I knew when I played that the team kind of looked to me to light the match, to get us going, to get the big hit. And courage and leadership, people talk about these things all the time. I think it's hard. Those are very difficult qualities to find. But then you have to kind of rationalize it in your mind. Just go, man, we're just playing baseball, man. Let's just go out and be free and stop worrying about it. I mean, if you're out there worrying about losing or worrying about what they're going to write or say about you if you have a bad game, that's a horrible mindset. And you have to kind of understand in this day and age, especially in baseball, you're a winning streak away from limping back into it. I mean, you can win 8 out of 10. The other team struggle a little bit, and next thing you know, you're knocking on the door. So years ago, when there was 2 divisions and you were 20 games out in June, it was like the rest of the year sucked, man. It was like you're just rolling out there mailing it in, and it was hard to motivate. So now with the playoff system and the wild card and all these scenarios, you got to stay positive. I mean, that's what I would tell them if I was in that clubhouse. Say, guys, we win 2 out of 3, win 3 out of 4, win 5, and slowly build. And if you have a step back, go forward. I mean, that's why in the car, man, the windshield is this big and the rearview mirror is this big. Look forward, don't look back. The yesterday's gone. Win today, and hopefully, if you could get a streak going, you could limp right back into a playoff situation.
Mike, I forgot that you played for the Mets. I honestly, because you were such a Marlins legend for those 5 games you played.
I have a triple actually with the Marlins
do
too,
you
if you
really?
can believe it.
Oh,
If you can
wow.
believe it. That was a
awesome.
funny story, man. Jim Leland, it was so funny. I got traded from the Dodgers, obviously. I couldn't believe it. I go to St. Louis and I'm like, holy shit, I got freaking traded, man. It was nuts. And Jim Leland brought me in his office. And of course, smoking a cigarette. He goes, listen, man. He goes, you're going to get your money. No doubt in your mind. You deserve it. You earned it. You're going to get paid. Obviously, it's not going to be here. We're already talking. There's some other teams that are interested. He goes, you may not even play. He goes, just keep yourself in shape. And obviously you'll probably be out of here in a few days. That night, I remember Todd Stoudemire. Todd Stoudemire was pitching, I believe, with the Cardinals. I think McGuire hit one over the scoreboard, and we were tied in a guy on third in the 6th inning, and I'm sitting there. I got no cup on. I don't have spikes, and he's like, "Piazza, grab a bat. You're hitting." I was like, "What?" And I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Oh shit!" And so, fortunately, I had some stuff there. I went right out and I swung at the first pitch. He threw me a get me over slider, and I hit a sac fly. So that was my first RBI and my first at bat with the Marlins. So obviously, prepare for the unexpected when you're in that situation. So that was a cool story.
Speaking of the unexpected, one of my all-time favorite Mike Piazza moments was the home run on 9/11, or after September 11th.
Yeah,
and I
the
was playing at the
21st.
time. I was playing at the time. I remember where I was when it all happened, and I remember what we went through to come back and play. Can you explain what that moment meant, especially playing in New York, the first game back? You hit the home run, you're running around the bases. Just talk about that, because every time I see that, it still gives me chills, because I remember where I was. I remember what happened. I remember
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. It's one of those, I think, out of body experiences in a way. I really can't explain the emotions of being in New York that week. And then, as you said, all the anxiety, anticipation, fear, trepidation going up to, should we be playing? Is it the right time? As you said, we were off for a week. We didn't know what to do. I mean, there was a lot. And then finally, I think when you have fear, then you have to try to find courage. And we said, okay, it's the right time. Let's do this. And as I've mentioned many times before, when the bagpipes came out that night, I mean, I started to lose it emotionally. And I remember being on the first base line and just saying to myself and praying, God, please just let me get through the night. I mean, I didn't care about hits, runs, winning, losing. I was like, I just wanted to try to hold it together emotionally. All of us were just wrecks. I mean, we all hugged and we go up. We were rivals. We're playing Atlanta Braves, and they had got our number the last few years, and it was it was one of those things where it was just so much bigger than baseball. I mean, I go up to Larry Chipper. I always call him Larry and hug him and say, Larry, just hug your kids, man, hug your family. Millwood, all these guys that we had played against, and so after that, the game started. Then it became a baseball game again, and then it became like it's on, and that particular moment was just one of those moments. It was euphoric. I was in the right place at the right time. And I just believe that I was, had so many people pulling for you. When you feel that energy and you feel everyone like just supporting you and you feel that wind, you just come through. And it was just one of those experiences I can't explain. It was so much larger than baseball. And I'm very blessed to have came through in that situation. I was blessed. I got a one strike fastball. You know what I mean? Because Carsey, he had a great curveball, and I was
I was
kind
going
of
to ask, did you
looking.
thank Carsey? Do you see Carsey
I
still
mean,
and say, hey, thanks for laying that one in there for me? I
well,
really
not only
appreciate it.
that, the funny thing about it was he threw one right down the middle, and I step out and I go, shit. I go, that's probably the best pitch I'm going to get. So as you see the swing, as you know, as a catcher, right? I'm thinking, okay, one strike, he's going to come in off the plate or he's going to go away. So I started cheating in a little bit, and you could see my bottom half a little bit, kind of thinking, okay, but he put it right down the middle. Fortunately, he gave me a cookie, and but he had a great curveball too, because I was like, man, if I see the spin, sit back. So there was a lot going on. And then as soon as I just was able, and I was able to really get my barrel and extend my arms on it and just, really just square it up. So it was just one of those fortunate situations. Yeah, I mean, again, baseball, right? If he would have thrown me a curveball, I probably would have threw the bat into the dugout, and we would have not been talking about the story. So fortunately, he did. He threw it.
It's one of the only times I've ever heard ball players say they felt like on the Brave side they weren't supposed to win. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those moments where because of the magnitude
Yeah.
of the situation, I'm friends with Mark DeRosa, and I remember he said he was like something along the lines of, "Yeah, like we did not deserve, or we kind of felt like this was their game, this was bigger than the game," which was wild. Not saying that's why you got the cookie.
No. Well, I think what you're getting at is, I think when you play against guys, and AJ, you know this, right? You're out there, you're a warrior, right? You have a persona. We all have to build up our armor. It's like even though we are friends off the field, we say hi, hey, doing, but there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of intensity. And we had played, as I said, against Chipper for years, and he had always just wore us out. I mean, he beat us in '99, and he just had our. No, he always just rose to the occasion. And afterwards, he was so gracious in his remarks, and you see such an incredible different side of him. A sensitive side, a side that he really cared and understood how important the relationship was, the rivalry between the Mets and the Braves, and how great it was for the game. And as you said, most of the guys were like, the Mets, it just seemed destiny. We were supposed to win that night, and they had no problem with that. And I thought that was an incredibly gracious sentiment by them. And after so many games of up and down and intense and hard baseball, it was really, really a cool moment for all of us. So looking back, it was one of those iconic moments in history, really. I mean, obviously in sports history.
For sure. Well deserved. You're involved in a kind of another iconic moment in the World Series one year with your boy Clemens.
Oh man, you have to bring that up. Okay.
No, of course. Listen,
no, it's cool.
I was in fights. Cool. I get it. I had people throw shit at me all the time. They usually were balls, not bats. So I get it. Yeah. And punches and everything. So my question is, when it happened, I would have been like, what the fuck is he doing? Because the ball, the bat, he's like, I thought it was the ball, which obviously if you have a bat and you have a ball in your hand, you know the difference as soon as you pick it up. And even if it thought it was the ball, why was he throwing it at you? Have you ever talked to him about it? And then the other question I have is, was it the next year you caught him in the All-Star game?
Yeah, I caught him in Houston. Yeah.
You were telling guys what was coming, because that would have been something I would have.
No, I would have been
like, you son of a bitch.
Somebody, no. You know what's funny is some people actually sort of alluded to that. I mean, like I would never do that. Obviously, if I was telling people what was coming, the umpire would have heard it. It doesn't make any sense. And obviously, you got to back up a little bit. Obviously, he beamed me. I think I forget during it might have been June of that year, and I'd said some things. I was hitting very well against him. I think it was like 8 for 12 or 8 for 11 with 3 home runs. And Roger, I mean, he was one of those old school mentality guys like Nolan Ryan. And it was just one of those things. I had really felt like he was going to back me off the plate eventually. I mean, I didn't know he was almost going to take my head clean off. You know what I mean? So I was like a little bit obviously sore and obviously sensitive to that. So this triggered and ignited this incredible, and you amplify that being in New York, right? With all the media there and the fans and the Yankees and the Mets. And it's like, it was a cauldron. There was so much intensity and so much every time we played him after that. It was like this sort of gladiator arena type of vibe. People wanted blood. And I think when it got to the World Series, you could tell. I mean, it was very uncomfortable in a way because it was hard enough to play baseball with your mind free and but because of all this backstory, there was so much emotion and intensity and adrenaline. So I think only giving him the benefit of the doubt when I broke the bat and it went to him, it was just such a bizarre moment of timing. And I mean, who would ever think and predict that could ever happen, really? And so I don't know. I give him the benefit of the doubt. People are like, oh, he knew you were running. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I actually, it was probably a bat that had a hairline crack in it. I didn't really know because it didn't really go that far on the trade. It was up the trademark a little bit, but the bat just imploded. And I actually felt like it was kind of a little bit solid. So I didn't know where I was like this. I thought the ball went over the first base into the stands, I believe. And so I was like, if it's down the line, and old Yankee Stadium, there's no foul territory down there. So if it would have limped into the field, it could have been a hit. So next thing I know, the bat goes whizzing by me, the bat head, there was 3 pieces, and then the rest is history, as they say. So you tell me. I mean, maybe it was just too much adrenaline. Maybe it was just too much of emotion. And I think maybe in the back of his mind, he actually maybe thought I was throwing the bat at him. I have no idea. I mean, he's never talked about it publicly. I've talked about it ad nauseum. So, your guess is as good as mine.
No, my thing is I faced Clemens, obviously. And he was known. If you got hits off of him, he was going to hit you. Or he was going to throw one up and in, right? I know he got you in the head, which is awful. But you get a hit off him your first at bat. Guess what? The next at bat, one was coming here. And it was just the way he tried to intimidate you.
I mean, there was a famous with Brocious, I believe, when he was still with Boston, where he almost hit him between the shoulder blades. So, I mean, look, that's like you said, that's the mentality he came up with. The whole country hardball. If someone's digging in on you, if someone bunts on you. I mean, Nolan Ryan used to, if someone bunted on him for a base hit, the next time up he would take your head off or at least drop you. And so yeah, that was that era, that mentality.
So you did give the pitches in the All-Star game. I got you.
No. Somebody mentioned that. I was like, why am I going to give the pitches in the All-Star game? This is ridiculous.
Because it was an exhibition, and it would be awesome if you did.
I mean, no. I just think, honestly, I got to be honest with you. It was just so awkward for both of us. It was just awkward.
Did you guys speak? Did you speak?
Yeah, no, we had to. And then every time we got close, there was media and everyone was like, are they talking? Blah, blah, blah. We went into the training room. We talked. I didn't really want to get into semantics or, what happened or what he was thinking. We just said, hey, dude, let's go out and be pros tonight. Let's try to get this done. Here's the signs, let's go over the hitters. And it was very professional. There was no emotion because that's what really you have to be. I mean, I would have felt better if he would have had 3 great innings or 2 innings or whatever he was going to throw. And I would have felt like more of a perfect because that's what we do. I don't worry about that bullshit. It was like, I'm not going to go out there and hope he gets lit up just because he hit me or we went through that incident. So it was what it was. I mean, I just think both of us were just uncomfortable and maybe he didn't have his best stuff. There's so many things that can happen in a bad game. You know this. So it was just unfortunate. And it ruined my All-Star game too, because every media, they asked every other player, every question, every press conference was this, that. And I was like, it just was weird. It was just a little awkward, but you get through it. It was what it was.
AJ, you know what they had to do back then? What Carlos Gomez and Brian McCann did years later and then posted on social media, which obviously wasn't a thing at the time period, but those two got really into it at one point, right? There was a famous brawl. And then recently they hugged it out, took a picture, showed everyone, we talked it out. We're boys. It's all good. You guys have probably been at similar events, for whatever, golf tournament.
Just one. Really? I was at a Michael Jordan golf tournament, and actually going back to the Grove. I mean, that's how we met Michael. And when Michael started the golf club, he obviously invited us to join the guys that he had knew from his golf tournament. And that was it. Just one. I mean, but you know what though? To me, things move on. It's like, what are you gonna do? We're we gonna go fight in the parking lot? If he wanted to,
that would be great. Now, see, that would be great. Well, we can manage that. We can make that. We can figure out UFC. Forget UFC. We'll make our own promotion. We'll have although Clemens, dude, he's big now. He's bigger than you are now. So I don't know.
I know, man.
He's out of your weight class.
AJ, you just said if he wants to, it's fine.
Doesn't his son play for the Phillies? Doesn't his son play for the? Yeah.
You know some Italian people in Philly.
Come on, Vito Friscia, who plays for us in Italy. I think he texted me. He goes, "You're not gonna believe he's in the clubhouse. Roger's in the clubhouse." I was like, "Tell him I said hi." Who gives it? Man, I'm just glad I said I'm just glad I'm still alive. I'm glad, as I said, I had a great career and history, but you move on. Things are I mean, think about it. This is already almost 25 years and people still like to talk about it, but it is what it is.
People love it. Last one, because I'm just thinking about how so many people want Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg to do a celebrity boxing match or something. If I came to you and I was like, all right, listen, this is going to make 50 mil. It's 15 for each of you and 20 goes to an incredible charity. 3 rounds. You down?
How much mil?
15.
15 mil each. Oh, there's no way you raise that much. I just did the Special Forces show last year for nothing. I got my ass kicked.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, I did the special. I mean, it was funny. I was thinking, I'm going to do this because my dad was in the Army and he was drafted for Korea, and it was just kind of a tribute thing. And then when I started watching the show, I said, you know what, it's going to be tough. So 15, yeah. If we do 15, he would. If he kicks my ass, I kick his ass for 15 million. Yeah, I mean. I'm down with that, but it ain't gonna happen. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to see 2 old. No one wants to see 2 old guys roll around in the ring.
I do.
For 15 million?
Hell yeah!
They're saying Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg would make millions and millions and millions. Those guys are.
They have that money in their ashtray in their car. They have that money in their sofa, in their sofa.
Dude,
cushion.
You're telling me that nobody in New York, if you put this thing in Madison Square Garden, the Mets fans,
dude, it would be so lame though. 2 old, out of shape dudes rolling around.
That's why it would be awesome because you guys would both throw one punch and then you'd be on each other.
They trained for a few months. These dudes are pros. You know how they'd be. They'd go nuts for a few months.
Dude, I just got new teeth. I don't want to get
I know a great mouth guard guy. You're good. So let me ask you about this, because you name dropped Jordan, and obviously you were
Yeah, I'm not name dropping. I mean, I was just saying the tournament. I mean,
No, that's one of the inside jokes we do, because AJ name drops like 10 times a day on our shows, and he's the mayor of Florida, not just Orlando. But
Jordan always takes my cigars, man. So I'm like, okay, go ahead.
No, but I want to know about, from Jordan to Jeter. We asked Pete Alonso. He's the face of the Mets and the big homer bat, right? And Judge obviously on the Yankees side. Great kid, yes. Both of them, awesome. Great dudes. Different, right? Pete's definitely like more of a public kind of jokester and out there. I mean, he was telling us about how he had to take a shit and ended up hitting a home run first pitch because he had to go to the bathroom so bad. Like, you're not going to get that story from Judge necessarily.
No, it's true.
But I was like, do you guys text? Are you guys friends? You guys saying like, hey, I'm going to what up you this year? And he said, not really. They see each other in person and stuff, but it's not like some, anything kind of daily going on. Did you have anything like that, whether it was with Jeter or anybody else that was like a big name in baseball or other sports at the time?
Well, it's funny. I kind of hung out with hockey guys. I mean, Sheldon Surrey, who was playing for the Devils at the time, then he got traded to the Canadiens, and we became close. He actually introduced me to my wife. His wife and my wife were roommates in California. So I'll never forgive him for that. Cost me a lot of money, by the way. But no, not at all. And so Jason Arnott's a good friend of mine. We're good friends. He still lives in Dallas. And but no, I mean, getting back to New York, I knew Derek. We just didn't really hang out. I mean, we're from two different teams, and it just I see him. I haven't really seen him that much. I know he's doing some commentary now. I think that's great. I wish him well with that. And we talk about our old friend Eric. Eric Karros was great for years at that. He had the look, the big Greek god, the Greek statue, I used to call him, and he had the good voice. And so, he was great for years. I love watching those guys.
He's still rolling. Karros is still rolling. No, don't put him in the grave yet.
No,
Mike.
No, I'm not.
Don't put him in the grave. He's still doing it.
I don't see him enough, honestly. And living in Europe, obviously, the time is just completely different than LA. So I got to go online and see him more. Yeah. But he just texted me the other day.
He's still got his hair is like this big now, though. It's like he has his own like chia pet on top now.
Dude, I'm going to go get him for some implants or something, man. Because I got hair. I'm using every bottle of hair growth stuff and all this stuff my daughters give me. She's like, Daddy, they got this. I'm like, give it to me. I'm like, putting it on my hair. So yeah, he's never had the hair problem. I think I'm going to have to grab a clump of his hair in the back of his head and plant it up here when I get a little thinner.
Hey, you also had a manager celebrity, right? Because not every manager is a big name or as entertaining or charismatic as Bobby V. So we could probably spend an hour plus on Bobby alone, and I know him pretty well, but give me your best on Bobby V, like your best situation or something that we, never knew about that you experienced. Of course, we know some of the famous theatrics.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, let's just be honest. The whole game is shifted in a way that you don't have these super large personality managers. I mean, I think Buck is probably one of the last persona managers. I mean, back when Bobby started, obviously he was groomed by Tommy Lasorda and Whitey Herzog, Jim Leland, I mentioned, these cagey old, baseball guys that were in the dugout and just these guru guys that were just this old school thing. And now with this whole metadata thing and analytics, and it just seems like managing a club is more of a collaborative effort. And I learned that in my stint managing. But I had an amazing coaching staff. I had Blake Butera and Mike Borzello and guys that had amazing experience. But getting back to Bobby, Bobby was Bobby. He was just he was a gregarious personality. He loved the spotlight. Very controversial. You loved him or you hated him. And I thought Bobby had an incredible baseball mind. I thought he evaluated players extremely well. He managed the game extremely well. But of course, he had a big ego. And I think sometimes his ego kind of clashed a little bit being in New York. And there was a lot of leaks, and if you had a meeting with them, and all of a sudden you would see something in the paper and things like that. So as a player, it was a challenge. I mean, my only story for me was, I think one meeting he called me out. He was in front of the group, and I'm kind of like going, what the hell is he talking about? I mean, I was just kind of like, okay, I sucked it up, and then I went and talked to him. I go, Skip, what the fuck, man? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I was like, what's the deal? Like what? And he was just like, well, if I call you out, then everyone will be motivated. And I was like, okay. I mean, so one time I think I always talk about this. I actually wrote about this in my book that he said, oh, do you want a day off tomorrow? And I was like, okay, fine, I'll take a blow. And he said, okay, fine, you're not going to play. And then I walked in and I was playing. And I saw in the lineup, because the lineup was right there, and there was a bunch of reporters there that were kind of like looking at me, like kind of almost. And I was like, okay, let me just be serious. I went in, I got dressed, and got ready for the game. And so, he would do little kind of mind tricks like that with me, and that was the only thing for me that was a little bit difficult to navigate. But you know what? You got to reach down, and you got to, as I said, be professional. And I just dealt with it as best I could. And it really, being in the cauldron of New York, really solidified my mental approach and allowed me to really focus and, as I said, concentrate on the game, keep myself in shape, hustle, do all the things that I needed to do to have a good stay there.
Mike, the managers are handed the lineups now, so Bobby probably wouldn't have liked that very much.
Crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's
they're
crazy.
They're literally like, here, by the way, here's your lineup, and here's the matchups you're going to do. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Joe, tell the guys why they're not playing or why they are playing. And, yeah, it's crazy. You're right. It's crazy.
I never thought, I mean, again, I think data is important. I think, all these statistics are important, obviously in baseball. But, yeah, the way the game has evolved in that direction is head scratching for me. Now, I'm not a hater. It's like, it is what it is, because I'm an antique, I'm an old guy, and I just kind of come in. I still enjoy the game and watching it, but and I'm not one of those guys. Back when we played, we used to play with broken legs and do all this stuff too. It's just like every era has its challenges, and this era is no different. So yeah, that is something for me that I just never thought would happen.
Yeah, well, you know what? You should like analytics now, because first of all, I would have been pissed too if a manager told me I was off and then just kidding, haha, I'm playing, because it happened to me with Barry Bonds when I played with him. There'd be two lineups up. One would be with Barry, one would be without Barry, and I'd be in one and not the other. And you had to wait till Barry. You had to wait till Barry got in at like 12:30 for a 1:00 game to know if you're playing or not. So I get your feeling, but you should be very proud. By the way, you should like analytics, because one thing that always bothered me about you was, and you're in the Hall of Fame. You're one of the best hitting catchers of all time. But everyone just railed on your defense, right? And as a guy that was also known as an offensive catcher, I thought I was pretty good behind the plate. And I watched you, and I didn't think you were horrible. I thought you were pretty good. I thought you were pretty good. I mean, you blocked. Listen, you played every day. You blocked the ball. You caught the ball. Now, listen, throwing, people don't understand. Throwing is about, you need a pitcher, a catcher, and someone to catch it and tag them. So there's a lot that goes into throwing guys out. So that never was a big thing for me. But have you seen your metrics in the last year? So seventh best going back to 1988 framing on one poll. Another poll puts you at third. What else can you do? If you catch the ball, you play every day, you hit homers for the guys, and you block it with a runner on third, what else?
Yeah. Well, I think that was just the subject of, I think naturally, you always have to find the chink in the armor. And as you mentioned, I think I played so much. And then again, as a catcher, this, right? When the pitcher's out of the game, he's out of the game. But even as a catcher, every throw you throw back to the pitcher is still a throw. So I think as my career sort of progressed, obviously my arm strength went down, and it's just naturally, it's impossible not to sort of equate that the more you play and as you get older, and it's such a physically demanding position that it's impossible to maintain a certain amount. Now there are freaks. I mean, I think Carlton Fisk caught well into I believe his early 40s. I mean, I think he had a resurgence when he later on in his career, hit a lot of home runs later in his career. But for me, it was just, I was blessed with a good body. I never had knee problems. Always like to take care of myself. And as a catcher, for me, as a hitter, I think that really helped my catching. And I was able to learn from the best when I came up with the Dodgers. I mean, Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, Johnny Roseboro, I mean, Kevin Kennedy, all these guys had an instrumental sort of effect on my career. And as a catcher, I looked at it as a personal responsibility to get that pitcher through the game. I mean, as you said, one thing I do remember is 5 times my staff's led the league in ERA. So if I could go out and catch a 2-hit shutout, and the guy shakes me off once or twice, that was a good game for me. Tom Candiotti told me one time, I'll never forget, I put this in my Hall of Fame speech. He goes, Mike, I don't give a shit if you ever throw anybody out. Just hit me a 3-run home run. So he said, catch my knuckleball and hit me a 3-run home run. He goes, I don't give a shit about that. So yeah, and as you said, I mean, obviously it's good to catch. I used to love the great throwing catchers. I mean, when I was a kid, I loved Benito Santiago, or at least when I came up and playing against him, it was kind of cool because he throw from his knees, and I love those guys. Ron Karkovice, you remember him with the
Yeah.
White Sox? He was a great thrower. He had a great release. Other guys I played against had great arms, and I really, really liked that. And so, obviously, I mean, when I came up, I had a decent arm, and I threw guys out. It was just not my forte, man. As you said, I was expected to play and drive in runs and catch. And as you said, I blocked. I loved blocking the ball. I used to tell the pitcher, dude, winning run or tying run on third, put it in the dirt. I got it. And I learned from the best. And as you know, as a catcher, man, you have to put the time in. So it was part of me that was just something that I really enjoyed and was something I really looked as a challenge.
And here's what you can't quantify. I don't know if they're going to ever have great statistics for game calling, right? I mean, obviously you can look at your pitcher's ERA, but actual game calling, a lot of it that is just word of mouth and also depending on who's making decisions and, paying attention to who's shaking. But I can just go on an example. Like Al Leiter has said, many times, like, Mike, it was the best. Calling pitches for me, super easy. It was awesome. And I mean, we see, relating it to current status here, the Cardinals, right? They're trying to replace Yadi Molina, who was, according to many,
he's
legendary.
Irreplaceable. You're not going to replace a guy like that. You're going to get you have to figure something out. So I think I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, I'm just saying, weeks into the season, they're freaking out because Yadi's gone. You sign a new guy who's also Contreras, known more as an offensive first catcher, and they're like, he's not ready. His pitchers are calling him out. I'm like, whoa.
Well, and I think you would attest to this, right? For me, when I was managing, and guys would come in after a pitcher was being taken out or changed, and they would come in and look and say, well, what's he throw? And I'm like, dude, just watch him. Watch the guy throw. When I was in Dodger Stadium, I would come out before I warmed up. I would sit on the bench, and the visiting bullpen was right out in right field. And whoever was pitching, I would just sit there for 5 minutes, watch the slider, watch the changeup, and I could see. And you learn a lot by watching. And I think we've computed the game so much into data that nobody watches the game. And as a catcher, you know this, AJ, right? If a guy's hot, if he's not, if he's chasing, if he's like all these things you have to have right here. I mean, I would watch if a guy's crowd the plate, I know he likes the ball in. If he's away, I know he likes the ball away. It's just certain little sort of tells as a catcher that you watch. And when a guy, I always laughed at it. I was watching the game the other day. Guy had a good fastball. He blows 2 by the guy. The guy fouls one off. He's tardy. What does he do? He throws a slider off speed, and the guy gets a base hit. I'm like, the guy is telling you that he can't catch up to the fastball. Now, I'm not saying you can't throw an off speed, but you can't throw it in the zone where the guy can get the bat on it, and then you go back and try to blow him away. So this organic, sort of lack of a better word, of evolution of the game, the spontaneity is gone. Everything is just super, super data computerized, and it's a little sterile to me. It's a little austere, but who am I? It's just my opinion.
Yeah, those are big words for us former catchers. 2 syllables. Okay, that's austere. Okay, I mean, let's slow down.
I do a lot of reading. I try to elevate my vocabulary a little bit.
Okay. The reason it is like that, Mike, is one, it starts at like 8, 9 years old. Every pitch is called for kids from travel ball till you're 12, to high school, into college, and then you get into the minor leagues, and these catchers are like, I don't know how to call a game. I've never called a game in my life by myself. And then they have the quarterback wristbands. Are like, okay, it's 2-2. I
Yeah.
have to throw this pitch because the chart says I'm throwing this pitch. And for me personally, my son catches. He's 16 years old. He's going to be a junior. We let him call every pitch in high school, and then we have conversations
Yeah.
with him and say, "This is why you don't call that pitch, or this is why you don't throw that pitch." And it seems kids are more responsive to that, other than being ordered like, "It's 2-2. The wristband says throw slider. I have to throw a slider," even though, like you said, the guy's late on the fastball.
I came up with a veteran staff. I mean, I had Oral Hershiser, Kevin Gross, Tom Candiotti, Ramon Martinez. You know, we then brought up Channel Park. We brought up Nomo. You know, Nomo signed, and um, my point I'm trying to make is when I first came up, I never had to tell Oral Hershiser to throw over Vince Coleman was on first base. You know, when we went in the meeting, he would say, Vince Coleman, okay, he's going to run. Or Chucky Carr, whoever was the fastest guy. You know the guy's going to run. So I would say, hey, man, give me a show move, give me a step off, give me a quick move. And that's how we would control the running game. But we weren't obsessing over it because ultimately, if we knew we concentrated so much on the runner, then the hitter you get a rally going. And as a catcher, I always say, you know, keep your team within one swing of the bat. The guys are good. You're going to give up runs. Give up one or two. Don't give up four or five. Don't give up three or four. And as you said, I think that sort of players don't have that instinct anymore. They don't have that style. They're just not on their own because you said everything is super, super controlled. And it is what it is. I mean, maybe it'll come around again. Maybe things happen in phases or in fads or whatever you want to say. So, you know, I hope it does that. But again, speaking about the staff, and then when I got up to the Mets, I think we called up a lefty, and there was a quick runner on first, and the guy just took off. I held the ball, and I said, "Dude, were you watching him?" He's like, "Well, I didn't see you throw over." I'm like, "Bro, we said the guy's got 30 stolen bases. He could roll. Why would you? You know what I mean?" So that whole mentality changed where the pitchers just weren't aware of their surroundings. Like as you said, you tell them everything to do, and it just got a little weird. You know, it just got super strange.
No, and sterile's a good word. Yeah, it's like robotic. It's coordinated, pre-coordinated even. So I'm with you. And I want to finish here on some Hall of Fame conversations. So first off, how often do you think about being a Hall of Famer? And when we do talk to guys that are like fringe, say, and they go, I don't think about it much, no big deal. Like if I get in, I get in. Do you believe them, or do you feel like most guys say, okay, I accomplished this much, I feel like I should be there, and they're probably, burning inside for that last mega ultimate accomplishment?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to surrender to the process, and it's gone through some evolution, obviously, with the writers, and um, I always try to stay away from lobbying. I mean, I just feel like as a player, you just got to put your numbers out there and just hope for the best. There's so many variables that go into it, as you know, throughout history, and what I can say personally is that it's the highest honor as a player. I knew when I started putting up good numbers behind the plate as a hitter and as a catcher that basically I was getting into that territory of that group. Gary Carter, God rest his soul, it took him a long time. I mean, it's a process, and you have to surrender to it. It's out of your control. So when I see the various debates every year, you know, they come up, and it's that's part of the fun of it, and it is the most significant Hall of Fame. I mean, to me, I mean, obviously you have other Hall of Fames in other sports, and there's some great players in there, but you know, the Baseball Hall of Fame is truly special. I mean, with the connection to history. So you know, obviously McGriff and Roland getting in this year, they're great players. They're well deserved, and I always say let the pundits, you know, debate. Because as a player, you know, AJ, right? Like there's players you think deserve it, players you don't think deserve it, and it's not really fair because ultimately we're all doing the same thing, and we're all trying to do and get along and build our careers and make a great living and then you just surrender. So for me, once I kind of let it go, it just happened, and it was a blessing. I mean, I went in with Junior, and it was a great day, and it was just. I think we as human beings are in this super hyper controlling mentality where sometimes you just have to release it, just throw it up to God, and just go, hey, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm proud of my career, and sometimes life isn't fair, man. I hate to say it, just because you do the right thing and you have the numbers doesn't mean you're going to be there. It's like it is what it is, and so fortunately, I made it, and it was a wonderful experience. I was so glad my dad was there. God rest his soul. He was so instrumental in my life and my career, and so obviously it was a special moment for me.
I'm just I I'm a against the way the process happens. I think there can be more tweaks to it. Your numbers didn't change over the years of when you started on the ballot, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, we went back and hit more homers, or he got more hits. So I just don't understand. If you're a Hall of Famer, like I played against you. I was fortunate enough to play
Yeah.
against you. I was fortunate enough to get to watch you coming up. You were a Hall of Famer. I didn't have to. I shouldn't have had to wait. What was it? 4 years for you to get in?
Yeah.
4 years, right? For you to get in. So I just don't understand. I mean, I was honored. I got on the ballot and I got a few votes.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I was like, yeah, I'm awesome. I didn't get in the Hall of Fame. But to me, there's guys you look at, you, Jeter, Mariano, the guy, Griffey, like you said, when it, those are guys that should
Yeah.
be like, there's no doubt. It's not there's no, oh man, well, we're going to make this guy wait 3 years because he deserves to. Screw that. I could watch you and say, this guy's a Hall of Famer. He should go in right away. So to me, that's what makes me angry about the way it happens.
But that's one approach, and I understand that, and I think a lot of people would relate to that. But you also have to look at it in a sense that the process is such that, as I said, my personal situation, if I would have went in the year before, there would have been like 5 guys. I went in with Junior. Obviously, he was first ballot and I wasn't, and I thought, okay, that the timing turned out to be perfect for me. It was a beautiful day. I mean, the director said, "Hey, you guys are only 2. Take more time on your speech." It was just an incredible experience. So at first, yes, it's a little bit head scratching where you're like, "Oh my God, is this going to happen?" And am I going to get the votes? And obviously, swirling around all the controversies of the years and things like that throughout our history of our game. But to me, it really comes out in the wash, man. It really does come out in the end, and it was a wonderful experience. And so I think we have to try to stay positive and allow it to take place. And as you said, look, I mean, McGriff, I mean, he today this year, he's waited a long time. I mean, I love playing against him, the crime dog. I mean, he had a great swing and the follow through and all that. And so, um, part of that is what makes it interesting. Maybe if it was just too computerized, okay, the numbers and this and that to get in, nobody would care. So I think from an interest standpoint, it just makes it part of the debate, and it is what it is. Yeah.
One more pressing ask for you before you jump to make this all go full circle, because I was thinking about this during the conversation. AJ trying to plead his case to be part of like the Team Italy coaching staff. Just one
Can you
promise
blame
from
me?
you.
Can you blame
No,
me?
I don't blame you at all, but I know you'll like
Yeah.
this because we were all over this when it happened. One promise is that you'll never let Team Italy's uniforms look anything like Great Britain's uniforms, because those were
Oh,
the
they
worst
were bad,
uniforms
right?
of all
Yeah.
time. Yes, of all time. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to get over that. Somebody let that slip through the cracks, and I mean, the freaking the names,
They're
I mean,
lame,
the
right?
letters were falling off.
Oh my God. Well, it's funny you say that, and real quick story is like this was the first year that the Major League Baseball facilitated where we had to get our own uniforms and our own sponsor. And we used the soccer company. The company's called Area, and they're actually out of Parma where I live. And they had never made baseball uniforms before. So when they were doing the mock-ups and stuff, I was like going, man, these guys are big leaguers. So I told John Marco, I said, dude, when we get to Taipei, we got to have a tailor there. We have to have a seamstress there. And it turned out to be great because these 2 Taiwanese people come in. This little dude comes in. He's got the tape measure, and so some of the pants were like, "What?" Like, I mean, it was like wearing trainer's pants or something. And so that was the one thing. I mean, in years past, the Major League Baseball did the uniforms, and this year was that one exception. So I don't know what they're going to do in the future for the next classic, but we were fortunate. I mean, Array was a great company. I mean, our uniforms are kind of different, but at least guys were happy with them. And so today I was like, man, these guys are really particular about their uniforms. So that was another story.
How the fuck does Major League Baseball not pay for your uniforms? They're making billions of dollars off this thing, and they can't throw a couple $100,000 to Italy and be like, "Hey guys, we're going to make your uniforms. You guys can design. This is what they should do. They should get the teams together and they should say, you're going to design your uniforms like the city
That would make
cadets.
sense.
And say,
Well,
you
you
make
know
them
as
how
well
you
as
want them.
well, I mean, now that I'm in the management space, I see that, they changed years ago. I mean, they went to Nike, right, a few years ago, and I knew there was some rollout problems. And in their defense with COVID and the supply chain issues, all the stuff that they talked about. But years it was Majestic, I believe. And then when I came out the Dodgers, it was Rawlings, and they did our uniforms. But since they shifted to Nike, I know during the pandemic, there was some issues, even with the teams. They had issues with even the regular teams. So I think this classic, they just kind of punted and said, look, you guys do your own uniforms. And even Venezuela, like I looked at Venezuela, I don't know. It was a little loud. It wasn't my cup of tea. Obviously, they liked it, Colombia and whatnot, because there's a lot of yellow going on there. It was cool. I mean, look,
Wait, who was the Great Britain guy then that was like, if Great Britain made their own uniforms, they're like, all right, we're just going to put Great Britain on our uniform.
and the letters are going to fall off.
Yeah, we're going to call it
lame, man. That's what I'm saying. Obviously, someone dropped the ball on that. But in their defense, these teams had never done that before. I mean, we were fortunate because we curated, a soccer company that does soccer uniforms, and they'd never done baseball. So now they've been working, and now they're getting their swatches better, and they're getting their uniforms better, and the buttons and these zippers and all that. So yeah, I mean, we were lucky, but yeah, you have to take control of that, and some of them were kind of goofy, goofy looking. Obviously, Japan was like perfect, right? They look like robots with the stripes and everything. When we played them, I was like, oh my God, And one last thing I'll say about it, when we played Japan. In Japan, 48 million people watched the game. 1 out of every 2 TVs in Japan watched the game. It's the highest watched game in the history of Japan, even more than the final. Now, even though there were some time change issues because it was Miami to Tokyo, that game we played there was just incredible, and it was just a big success. So I think Major League Baseball was a little bit surprised. This could have been the year that the Classic kind of faded away. But I think putting aside some of the negative stuff and the injuries, it turned out to be an incredible home run, lack of a better word, for MLB.
Oh, yeah. Stronger than ever. I agree. And they will definitely be paying for all the unis again. There's no doubt. Hearing that, too, again, you're reminding me, like, how many people were watching, how many ads, how much money was made. And I'm like, I just spent the weekend watching MLB's coverage of the London series. And we're spending all this money, outreach. We want to get more players in Great Britain. And we talked about this at the top. And I'm like, here's a good idea. Don't embarrass Great Britain by making them set up their own uniforms. Like, you want baseball to be cool in England? Like, you made.
I think they were trying to replicate. I think
little leaguers would have made fun of.
I think they were trying to replicate the fog of London. Like, the whole uniform was just fog.
That's why the letters fell off, because you couldn't see
the shitty weather. Yeah, just fog, man. Like, there was no Union Jack there. There was no, the London Guard. They could have done something kind of cool. Fish and chips. Yeah, what other stereotype of London, England can you do, But yeah.
Sherlock Holmes. The letters
Sherlock Holmes, with the pipe. They all come out with the pipe or something. I have no idea. Yeah, it was lame. But like you said, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's crazy. As I said, I believe this. They thought this was the Classic was going to die after this series. They thought this was going to be lame, and and it turned out to be an incredible experience, and tons of people watched it. So we'll see the next chapter. It'll be interesting. One thing for sure, we're not going to sneak up on anybody. So
no,
we already started working. I said to John Marco the other, like, dude, we got to start finding some Italian guys. Let's get busy,
Yeah, no, they know about Team Italy now. On the field, and the guys were loud in a good way. They were fun. It was great. So you were a big part of
Great
it, dude.
experience.
Appreciate the time. And I just want to say a big thanks to the MLB Players Alumni Association for making this happen behind the scenes with Mike and AJ and myself. And hit baseballalumni.com for much more info on your favorite former players and all the great things they're doing over there. New episodes of this show every week on Foul Territory's YouTube channels and wherever you get your pods. Mike, awesome catching up with you, dude. Really appreciate it. This was great.
Yeah. All right, AJ, I'll see you at the club, man. Let's go.
All right, buddy. One day you'll let a non-Hall of Famer play with you. So just let me know when you want to come down, okay? Let me know.
Dude, you just have to bring, booze and cigars, and I'm good to go. So
okay, we got that.
All right. Yeah, let's hit the ball around up there. That would be fun, man.
All right, Mike.
God
Thanks,
bless, guys.
Cheers, Mike. We'll talk to you soon, dude.